Welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host Jordan Ron on ESPN. ESPN.com Giants reporter over here with our first training camp review of the summer. And we're going to get straight into it. Abdul Carter, Jaxson Dart, Russell Wilson, Malik Nabers tell you why those four in particular should give you some hope for this season. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, tell you where the little depth chart recap, where everybody's working, go over some of the position battles, all that stuff coming up. Standouts and Strugglers later, and then a little finish up with a little Jordan on the beat. But I think where we should start here, and usually say quarterback, always talk about the quarterback. For the sake of, okay, I'm taping this on Monday night. They just finished their first full padded practice of the summer, so still a lot left to be desired. But the number one thing that has stood out to me at camp this summer is Abdul Carter. And you listen to some of the Giants players talk about Abdul Carter, and you say, Jermaine Illuminor just raved about him to me. So he's going to be a great player. Like, he's just rare, the twitchiness and instinctiveness that he has. And you ask Abdul Carter, where do you get those instincts? And unbelievable answer. Just like, God gave them to me. Not much I can do about it. So, but you just watch him on the field, and you realize, and you hear other players talking about him, guys like Jermaine Illuminor, Malik Nabers, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. They know, and you can tell pretty quickly when guys are that good, you know that he's going to be a stud. You can just tell by the way he moves. And I warned you about this was going to happen this summer. When good players go against the second and third team offensive line. So Abdul Carter starts out with the second team defense, right? He's playing mostly with the second team defense. Now, that means he's playing against the second team offensive line. Mind you, Andrew Thomas is out. We'll get to that a little later as well. Something I'll touch on for a minute. I think I told you last time. Don't worry about Andrew Thomas. So Andrew Thomas out. Now, James Hudson, would be the backup in the second team offensive line. Now he gets bumped up to the first team offensive line. So now the second team offensive line, the second team tackles now has the third team tackle in there as well. So now you have Abdul Carter, who essentially is a starter. Worst case scenario is a situational pass rusher, right? Working with the second team. And he's going against the second and the third team offensive tackle. Second and third team offensive tackles are guys you generally don't even want to get in the game. You don't even want to see them play. If they're playing, you're in trouble. But you had those guys now trying to block Abdul Carter, who, by the way, should be working with the first team and is having success when he's matched up against Jermaine Illuminor. It's a good battle. There's some wins, some losses. But that's a good battle. But he's still winning there at times. So now when he's going up against Marcus Bowe, Stone Forsythe, Josh Azudu, the guys who were playing with the second team offensive line, it's just total domination. Stone Forsythe was going against Abdul Carter in one-on-ones today. And he stood no chance. There was one rep where I don't even know if he put a hand on him. Abdul Carter was just by him. And so you could see all the reasons the Giants picked him number 3 overall. Like, he's going to be that good. And the early indications in camp are, hey, he might be that good immediately. They have to find ways to get him on the field. They're going to have to find ways to get Kayvon Thibodeau. Might play the early downs at the edge along with Brian Burns, and then you're going to see Abdul Carter come in all different kinds of ways. He's going to sub in one series for Thibodeau and then Burns, but bottom line is he's going to play. The dude's too good not to play. So that's a good sign to start camp right there, because your number 3 overall pick, you can't miss on that, right? They hit on Nabers last year. He's been great so far in training camp. He's going against Paulson and Debo. That's a matchup every day. Paulson and Debo's getting reps, and Malik Nabers is winning a lot there. He just looks so good. Now, I don't know if that's an indictment on a Debo, because I'm not sure there's a lot of cornerbacks out there that can match up with Malik Nabers one-on-one and win a lot of reps. So, Malik Nabers, a hit at number 6 last year. Abdul Carter at number 3 this year. Be absolutely stunned if he's not a hit as well. And those are going to be building block pieces for this Giants team. The other thing that I think is very notable early in training camp is Russell Wilson has been solid. You look at him and you get a feel for what this team is going to be like. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? Doesn't make a lot of big mistakes. holds on to the ball at times too long, dump, 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 and then throws and hits a deep pass. Like, that's what the Giants' offense is going to be. And Russell Wilson in these control environments, no pads up until today, like, he's going to look good, and he did. He looked pretty solid throughout the first couple of days of training camp. Jaxson Dart, on the other hand, he's a rookie. First of all, it was very interesting to note the Giants took the approach of, we're going to declare Russell Wilson the clear-cut starter here again, not even pretend like there's any sort of battle for, the QB1. Or maybe there's a QB battle for QB2, but even that's nuanced as well. Because Jaxson Dart, the first few days, holding on to the ball a little long, struggled to complete passes. You see why, hey, it might be beneficial for this guy to sit and learn and wait and play behind Russell Wilson and or Jameis Winston just to start. And let's get better and improve. Now, today is Sunday. Sunday, Jaxson Dart had a much better day. He said he felt he had more freedom at the line of scrimmage, which I thought was interesting. And he was more familiar with the people around him in the plays, and you saw it. The decision-making was much quicker. If he can continue getting better and building like that, I could see a scenario where Jaxson Dart then ends up playing earlier in the season. But the reason Jameis Winston is here right now, because if something happens with Russell Wilson early on, let's say he injures his calf again, like what happened last year in Pittsburgh, then Jameis Winston is there. Now, Jameis Winston is all over the place, right? He could make a ridiculous throw, a dart down the middle of the field, unbelievable throw in between three guys, and then he'll throw one 40 yards over the guy's head. I mean, he's just all over the place. Now, he's gotten better also. I feel like he's getting a little bit more comfortable. But I could see a scenario where you're like, well, we don't really want to throw Jaxson Dart in super early in the season. He's not ready for that yet. He's not at the point where we want to put him in that position, especially if the Giants' offensive line might be struggling, the offense might be struggling, whatever it is. You don't want to put him in a tough situation early in the season. There's no reason to throw him into that. That's why you have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Russell Wilson has clearly been their best quarterback this summer. So, does he deserve to be the starter? Absolutely. Is there going to be any controversy about who the starting quarterback is to start the season? As long as Russell Wilson is living, breathing, and standing upright, he's the Giants starter week 1 of this season. No doubt. And they made that perfectly clear. And they're not even playing games with, it's a competition every day. We want them to go out there. No. Russell Wilson's QB1. He only takes snaps with the first team. Jaxson Dart, he's playing with the second team offense. For the most part. Majority of his reps. There was one day where they flipped and Jameis took second team reps. But I think part of that, it's not that Jaxson Dart necessarily is the backup. It's that they don't want him playing with the third team, behind the third team offensive line, which is already he's playing behind the second team offensive line, which can be shaky at times. They don't want him behind a third team offensive line with lesser receivers and lesser players around him. Like, they want him to get as close to the experience that he would get in a game, like talent-wise around him, as they can, without sacrificing getting Russell Wilson ready for the season. Now, Dart will sneak in a first-team rep every once and forever. Same with Jameis Winston. That's what it's been like pretty much the first week of camp. Today is Monday, so what? We're 5 practices in. We're not even a week into training camp. So don't make any overarching observations that, Jaxson Dart stinks or this guy stinks. I know I did that with Abdul Carter, but that's because that's just an extension of what I saw over the spring. I'm just saying training camp alone is a long way to go. See what happens when they start hitting, joint practices with other teams, preseason games against other teams. Things change when you start getting hit in the mouth, and you have to see what happens when you go against another team who isn't familiar with all your plays. It's just a much different situation. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, Jameis Winston's taking mostly the third team reps. Tommy DeVito's sneaking in some third team reps as well. Jaxson Dart's mostly with the second team offense. And Russell Wilson exclusively, whenever he takes a snap, Russell Wilson is with the first team offense. That's mostly Tyrone Tracy in the backfield. and Devin Singletary, which is notable because Cam Scatterbo, who's got off to a strong start, catches the ball a lot better than people think. That's the thing I think that you'll notice about Cam Scatterbo maybe the most. His ability to catch the ball and run with the ball in his hands once he gets into the open field. That, I think, is where he could do damage. He might actually be their short yardage back / passing down back, which is quite the combination. But Devin Singletary, still, if you're talking about guys that take first-team reps, he's getting more first-team reps at the moment than Cam Scatterbo. That's why I'm going to temper that enthusiasm, just for people looking at it in fantasy, for the moment until that changes. Now, at wide receiver, it's been, Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Those are the three. Jalen Hyatt will sneak in there. Amir Smith-Marset is kind of the next guy in the slot there as well. But those are the primary guys that are going to get reps for the Giants. We'll talk about Bryce Ford-Wheaton. That was a loss later on. More for special teams than anything else. But Jalen Hyatt's banged up, so they're kind of just rotating guys in at the moment. We'll see how that pans out. But still, those are the Giants' primary wide receiver options. Tight end, it's Theo Johnson's show. Chris Manhurst is the blocker. Daniel Bellinger kind of slides into all different roles. He's sort of the jack of all trades. Greg Dulcich has actually got off to a pretty strong start. And Thomas Fidone, they're like that next line, the second and third team tight ends for the most part. Offensive line, it's the same as last year, same as expected for the most part. When they start out, you're talking about, except Andrew Thomas isn't out there. So James Hudson, as I mentioned before, James Hudson, I think it's the third. He's running with the first team at the moment at left tackle. John Runyon Jr. at left guard. John Michael Schmitz, who's a little bit up and down early in camp, at center. Right guard is Greg Van Roten, probably first up, but there's also an open door. Evan Neal getting some snaps in there with the first team. Jake Kubas occasionally gets snaps in the first team. We're all talking about right guard here. Aaron Stinney also in that mix. Josh Azudu mostly playing on the outside with like the second team. Stone Forsythe playing left tackle with the second team with Marcus Bowe, the rookie fifth-round pick out of Purdue. His primary position looks like it's right tackle. So he's, second and third team reps for him as well. And second team center is Austin Schlottman, if you're looking at the depth there. And Brian Hudson's a player to watch at that position as well. So that's pretty much the depth chart on the offensive side. On the defensive side, there's a lot of different formations they use. So I'm trying to figure out, let's say in a base formation, you got Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Abdul Carter's like right behind both of them. They'll find ways to get him in. On the interior, you got like Dexter Lawrence, Roy Robertson, Harris, Rakeem Nunez-Roches. He's part of that mix. Darius Alexander, a little bit off to a slow start. Haven't seen him get a lot of premium reps yet. He's with the second, maybe even the third team at times. You got guys like Chapman, Elijah Chapman, who's sneaking in, depending on the package, for some reps, but he's mostly with the second team. DJ Davidson as well, and Jordan Riley, the other guy. Those are kind of like that second team group right there. Chauncey Golston is an interesting one. He's mostly with the second team as the other outside linebacker, but you see some special packages where Chauncey Golston kind of fits in as well. In regards to linebacker, it's Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. They're the primary first team guys. The second team, you're looking at guys like Darius Muasau, Chris Board. Chris and CJ. I'm getting confused. I'm in my head trying to figure out which one is which. CJ Board's a former wide receiver for the Giants. Chris Board with the second team. Ty Summers running mostly with the third team, along with Deontay Johnson. Cornerback position, it's Paulson Adebo on one side, and there is a competition between Deonte Banks and Cordell Flott. Clearly, the Giants are going to make Deonte Banks, first-round pick from 2 years ago, earn that spot. And I'd say they're both off to a pretty solid start. I kind of like what I've seen from Cordell Flott. He's going to make this a competition. We'll see how that goes, though, as we move along here. Next, obviously, Drew Phillips, who has had a great camp so far, looked really good at camp. I'm really feeling good about him end up being like a high-level slot cornerback in the NFL. I wanted to see a little more after that. Last year, obviously, had a really good rookie year. I wanted to see a little more. I'm feeling good about where he's at right now as well. And the safeties are Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin, and Dane Belton's next in line. They signed Kayvon Wallace also recently. So there's another veteran, good special teams guy, loves the game, really good influence in that locker room from what I've been told. So that might be a guy that might stick around as well. That's pretty much where everything stands on the depth chart side. Andrew Thomas is the one last thing I want to talk about here. He was, you see him working he came outside, worked on the side a little bit one day, but he's not practicing. He's still on PUP. The Giants' plan with him is fully for Andrew Thomas to be back week 1. There's not a huge concern that Andrew Thomas won't be back week 1. All the news they've been getting on Andrew Thomas and his foot and how it's healed because they took, I believe, the screws out back in the early part of the spring. And the healing, though, is going as planned. And the Giants, they're hoping, and what they're trying to do is, okay, we're going to get him ready maybe to get in that preseason game where the starters play, the one drive, one quarter, whatever it may be, one half, whatever they decide to try to ramp him up before that, get him ready for that, and have him ready for week 1. But there's not a huge concern about Andrew Thomas not being ready, which is obviously huge for this team because that offensive line looks so much different. Right? I'll talk about this in another episode of what the Giants offensive line thinks and what they think they could be. But just think about how different that offensive line looks. Andrew Thomas is their one high-level player. None of the other guys in the offensive line are super high-level players. I'm talking about all Pro Bowl type players. There's some decent players, proven starters, veterans that have succeeded in this league, like John Runyon Jr., especially at left guard. But Jimmy Illuminor at right tackle has proven to be a serviceable tackle. But none of them are Andrew Thomas. So if Andrew Thomas is not there, now you have a liability at left tackle. I mean, James Hudson Jr. looks like he can hold his own at least and scrap his way, play a game for you. A game here or there. I don't think you want that long term, though. It'll end up being trouble. And so then you have a liability there. Your center is still unknown. John Michael Schmidt's off to a little bit of a rough start. Some of the snaps were high. Obviously, Russell Wilson's a shorter quarterback. Maybe that's something they need to figure out. And then right guard, who knows? We'll talk about Evan Neal in a few minutes here. But, and then right tackle, you have a quality, serviceable right tackle. So, but overall, that then creates an offensive line. You're like, Overall, that's not a great offensive line. You have some question marks and a bunch of average / slightly above average kind of guys. So that would not be sufficient if you're talking about, or how are they going to protect Russell Wilson? How are they going to protect a rookie in Jaxson Dart? That's why they need Andrew Thomas so badly. He's the guy. He's the one guy that they have there that is the dude. So they need Andrew Thomas. But as of right now, it's looking good that he'll be ready for week 1. On to the next one. Let's go over a little standouts and strugglers so far at training camp. When we talk about standouts, I want to start out with Malik Nabers. Mentioned him a little bit early on, but man, he looks virtually unguardable if you're going to just cover him one-on-one. He's just so smooth, so explosive. It just looks so easy for him. Like, you don't look at him like he's the fastest guy out in the world or out there on the field, but the way he accelerates and moves in and out of breaks and his routes, very solid. He's off to an unbelievable start. That's where I'm going to start with the standouts. Strugglers, on the flip side, I'm going to go one by one. One standout, one struggler. One standout, one struggler. On the strugglers side, I'm going to start with Jalin Hyatt. Not that he wasn't playing well. Played the first few days, got banged up, though, a little leg injury, and now has been sort of limited since. So the injury has kind of slowed down the Jalin Hyatt train just a little bit to start the summer here. We'll see how it pans out, but not the best start for Jalin Hyatt. I mean, a guy whose game and success is predicated on speed. The last thing you want is some little nagging minor leg injury that would affect him moving forward. Now, hopefully it doesn't, but Let's see him get back in there and start making plays. Already at the start of the summer, you saw Malik Nabers back when he wasn't this spring. So it was then Nabers, Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson, who's now banged up too, 2 days in a row. So they're playing it safe with him. And then sort of Hyatt was with the second team. I think he made one significant play the first few days of camp. Sort of a back shoulder type throw from Jaxson Dart, and Hyatt went to go get it against Trey Hawkins. But so slow start for him. Standouts, Javon Holland. Okay, I knew Javon Holland was a good player, but he struggled last year, right? Everyone I talked to kind of was like, he kind of had a down year. So let's see what he is. Javon Holland, when I look at him on the field, I'm like, wow, this guy's a quality player in the NFL. This is a quality safety. I'm not sure he's an All-Pro. I'm not sure he's a Pro Bowl player. What I can say is when I look at that guy and some of the things he could do, the way he can control the field, the way he can, move side to side, that's the kind of guy, and also come make plays down in the box. That's the kind of guy that's going to be a quality NFL safety. There's no doubt in my mind. And I think he could really help that team. Remember how young they were last year on the back end. So to have Javon Holland, to have Paulson Adebo, those two are huge. And I like what I've seen from Holland. Interception for a touchdown. Well, I think it was on Sunday as well. So good start for him. On the struggler list, Darius Alexander, 3rd-round pick, Toledo. Just haven't seen much from him. He sat out most of the spring with an injury. And so far early in camp, Darius Alexander, when he's out on the field, it's with the second or third team, and it's just you don't hear or see much. And so the pad just went on. Not any sound the alarm kind of thing, but like to see a little bit more from Darius Alexander as we move forward. I'm sure we will. Greg Dulcich, tight end, working primarily with the third team, but he's the tight end and wide receiver rotations are constant, so he gets opportunities with other teams as well. He actually made a lot of plays early on in camp. Now, I'm very curious to see what happens with Greg Dulcich with the pads on, because now you have to, start blocking Abdul Carter for a couple plays and then go run a route the very next snap after that. It becomes a lot harder to do. And Greg Dulcich, we'll see, he had kind of really struggled in his previous stop in Denver. Will that change? Will he have the same struggles catching the ball as the physicality sort of picks up? That's something I'm watching and interested as well. Another struggler, Stone Forsythe. If the Giants, he was signed another veteran tackle. If they were planning on him being sort of one of those backup tackles, it worries me a little bit if he gets in the game, because he could not handle Abdul Carter. And so if he has to get in the game and play in a game, and he was one of their contingency plans for right tackle, left tackle, I'd be a little concerned with that. Another standout, Cam Scatterbo, another rookie. The rookies are, for the most part, pretty good. We're talking about Scatterbo, Carter, Dart's been decent. So pretty good start for the Giants rookies. Alexander, obviously, a little bit of a slow start. I mentioned him. But Cam Scatterbo's contributions as a pass catcher, very notable. Get the ball to him in the screen, let him work. Those kind of things. A couple runs, big runs out, through traffic, bounce outside. He has that shiftiness and speed. I'm not sure how the power is going to play in the NFL. He still looks a bit small to me, but he does have these other skills. If the power could play even a little bit, Cam Scatterbo is going to be a good player and an instant contributor. It's funny because he might actually this year be their 3rd down back and also maybe their short yardage back, which is a strange combination. Usually that's not the case, right? Usually your third down back is, a big, powerful guy, and that usually doesn't translate to, I catch the ball well and can make plays out of the backfield. So it'll be interesting. But Cam Scatterbo's blocking, his ability to block will probably determine if that's a role he'll have full time. The last struggler I have here, I'm putting Bryce Ford Wheaton on the list, and it has nothing to do with how he played. Actually, Bryce Ford Wheaton got off to a strong start at camp, and I would probably lean towards he was going to end up making the roster because he was a core special teamer for them last year. Unfortunate injury. He tears his Achilles on Sunday. He does it on a play after he makes a catch. He actually was having a really good practice, made multiple catches. And as he got tackled and went down, he actually tore his Achilles, apparently. And then the next play, the Giants were spiking the ball. He went up and lined up because they didn't want to have basically get a penalty. He actually got up and went out to his position. And then when they went to snap the ball, he just took a little half mini step and just went straight down. So really unfortunate for Bryce Ford Wheaton. His season is over. So I put him on the struggler list only because it means he's not going to be part of the mix. Nothing to do with how he was performing. Just a tough break for him. He's had a bunch of tough injury breaks so far early in his career. And the last one I have is a standout, and I mentioned it before, is Cordell Flott. I kind of like Cordell Flott. I mean, he's really grown on me. Last year in training camp, I was like, I don't know where this guy even plays at this point of his career. He's bouncing around. He's not really that good on the outside. He hasn't been that good on the outside. Hasn't been that good on the inside. Giants finally settled with him on the outside, and I think you're seeing a different player from him. You're seeing him make plays on the ball. Sure, he gets beat at times. Everybody gets beat at that cornerback position. But his ball skills definitely stand out to me. I think he might have, I actually do think he has better ball skills than Deonte Banks. That's not Deonte Banks' skill. Deonte Banks also, I should note, pretty good start to the summer. I don't recall him giving up any big catches. So that obviously is a big improvement. I could have put him on there too. Cordell Flott, for some reason, because of the way he actually makes the play on the ball, has stood out a little more to me than Deonte Banks. So that's my standouts and strugglers. On to the next one. We're going to finish here with a little quick Jordan on the beat. This is where I tell you what it's like to cover the Giants, work for ESPN, or cover the NFL in general. And one of the things that happened so far at training camp was Justin Pugh, who didn't play last year, but he came back the year before, straight off the couch, second stint with the Giants. He came, announced his official retirement, had his family there, had a press conference, got a little emotional. And it made me start thinking. So this is where I tell you, obviously, related to me is, first of all, congrats to Justin Pugh. He had a solid career. He was a really good, solid player. I know he took a lot of heat from Giants fans at the time. He played tackle early in his career, right, moved over to left, played right, left, moved inside to guard, everywhere the Giants needed him. He turned into a pretty good darn guard at the end of his first stint with the Giants. Went and played for the Arizona Cardinals. Again, was a quality guard for the Arizona Cardinals. Came back and even he admitted it, he really couldn't play at the end there. He was probably like 270 pounds. I forget the exact number he said. But Justin, you could tell, like he was trying to make do out there, but he was severely undersized at that point of his career. But he still went out there and did the best he could and was serviceable just even at that weight. So good career for Justin Pugh. Congratulations to you. It was a good guy. I've talked about it here. We had our ups and downs. Great guy, but we had an incident several years into his career, something that was published that pissed him off, and he was just like, I didn't talk to me for like a year. Happens, part of the deal. But him retiring kind of made me think a little bit, because Justin Pugh came to the Giants. He was a first-round pick out of Syracuse. Awesome draft video. When he gets drafted, him and his buddies going nuts. He gets drafted in 2013. I end up coming to cover the Giants in 2013 as well. So now as he's standing up there at the podium in his retirement press conference, I know his family, his mother, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wow. Okay. We both came to the Giants in New York at the same. I came to cover the Giants, came to play for the Giants. Came to the New York area for the purpose of, NFL coverage and NFL play or whatever. At around the same time, I came in the middle of that 2013 season. So I've reached a point now where guys who came at the same time as me are retiring, which makes me think I've been there a good chunk now, right? 2013 to 2025, we're talking about a dozen years. I've now been covering the Giants for more than a decade, which is a long time. And it would really hit me to see Justin Pugh being the one who was up there, knowing the relationship I had with him. It started off super strong, went up and down, and, we have a good quality relationship now. I consider him one of the better guys I covered. I wasn't even pissed at him for not talking to me for that year. It's kind of like I had to take it on the chin because the story, he said, I hate Philadelphia, meaning I hate the Eagles, but the quote was put in the headline, I hate Philadelphia. And all his friends like, what do you mean you hate Philadelphia? This is where you're from. Like, why would you hate the city of Philadelphia? You're a traitor, blah, blah, blah. So he got pissed at me and we didn't talk for a while. But that being said, still super good guy. I didn't hold that against him at all. I totally understand that. I put him in a bad spot and he was going to hold me accountable for it. It's the way it is. It's the way it goes. But we eventually ironed that out. We're all good. And now seeing him retire just hit a little bit different. Like Prince Amukamara retired, and I covered Prince Amukamara, but I didn't actually come in with Prince Amukamara, right? He was drafted in the 2011 draft, so he kind of was there even before me. So it didn't hit me as hard on Prince Amukamara. Same with like other guys that have come back and retired. I've seen Chris Snee would do one of those press conferences. I barely covered Chris Snee. What was his name? The running back from Virginia Tech, David Wilson, did a retirement press conference. Rashad Jennings did a retirement press conference. But Justin Pugh, I came there at the same time as. Now it's like, oh, damn, I've been there a while. I'm getting old. So just another year, season 13 on the Giants beat. Let's go. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends. The podcast is available on all your podcast platforms and YouTube as well. We'll try to start getting guests maybe later this week, early next week at training camp, and then sort of incorporating them into the podcast as well. I think that'll be fun. I always like those training camp interviews. Next week, we will be live from Giants training camp with ESPN New York, 880 ESPN New York. Dave Rothenberg and I, the DPH and Rothenberg show is going to be there, I believe, on next Wednesday morning, August 6th. So tune in. Maybe we'll put some of those interviews up on here as well. Remember, tell your friends, like, subscribe. You're listening to Breaking Big Blue. I'm Jordan Ronan. See you next time.